talk about, again, getting the most from this course. And I think one of the things that's really, really important up front is to give you the competency model. And this competency model will help you in terms of learning anything. So again, if you're going to learn anything from new, you need to be aware of the competency model. So the competency model is broken up into 4 different stages of competency with any skill. Okay, so the first stage of competency model is unconscious incompetence. Then we have conscious incompetence. Then we have conscious competence. And then we have unconscious competence. Bit of a mouthful, I'm sure you'll agree. But so if we apply this to something we're all familiar with, so if we apply this to something like learning to drive, for example, when we're new to driving. So when we first learn to drive, we've never stepped foot in a car before. We might have seen somebody, well, clearly we will all have seen somebody else driving. So we'll have a bit of an idea of what we need to do when we enter a car. We know there's a steering wheel, we know there's a brake pedal and an accelerator pedal. But what we actually know at this point is we don't know what we actually need to know. So we're actually unconsciously incompetent. When you get into that car and you've never driven one before, and you don't understand, especially if you're driving a manual car, and you don't understand how to use the clutch, you won't even, at this moment, for most people, they won't even be aware that there is this thing that they have to learn. So they're currently, at this point, they're unconsciously incompetent. Then you have a driving instructor, so you have someone coaching you, an instructor, a trainer, and basically they are going to make you aware of this. They're going to tell you, oh, this is what you need to do. And you move on to the next stage, which is conscious incompetence. So someone's educated you and made you aware now that there is something you need to do, but you're probably still incompetent at it. You're probably still at the stage where you understand that that's what you need to do, but you don't have the skill yet to do it. And that's the second stage of competence. So the first bit of learning anything is the education phase. So the first phase is you need somebody or a book or something to educate you so that you actually become consciously incompetent. Now, when I say incompetent, it's worth mentioning this is not a negative or a criticism of you as an individual or me as an individual. We just have to be aware that all of us, when we approach learning a new skill, will be unconsciously incompetent. And using that awareness is how you then are able to grow by educating yourself. Then, once we have done some practice, so in the conscious incompetence phase, so we've been educated and we're actually now going to practice those skills. So this is the driving instructor helping us learn how we use that, if we are driving a manual car, how we use that clutch, how we find that bite point before we take our foot too quickly off the pedal and the car stalls and nothing quite works. So we're now practicing this. We're practicing this skill. So we're building the motor skills to be able to do this. So this is the practice phase of what we're doing. And that takes us on to conscious competence. So now we're getting good at this. Now we're getting good at this skill. But we're using the frontal part of our brain, the conscious thinking part of our brain, to be able to do this skill. So changing tact a little bit. This is like when I'm playing the guitar. So if I'm playing the guitar and I'm learning something new, when I'm at the conscious competence bit, so I've educated myself, I've learned the dots where I need to place my fingers. But I'm still having to use this part of the brain to think where to put my fingers. I'm still having to look and really concentrate and use this conscious part. But then you come to the final bit of competence where you start to master something. And this is the unconscious competence. This is where we've practiced something so many times that those motor skills are now hardwired into us. And we are now in what's known as unconscious competence. We can store that away, and I can now play the guitar, I can play those notes on the guitar, and I can be thinking about something different. Hopefully, the words of the song that I'm trying to sing, even though I'm a terrible singer. So that's how you can do. That's how you can sing and play the guitar at the same time, is we've moved that skill of where to put my fingers into the unconscious competence part of the brain so that we can focus on different things. However, we need to make sure when we're learning anything, we need to make sure that we are actually unconsciously competent at those skills. So we need some way of appraising our skill. We need some outside appraisal to actually test and make sure that we are actually genuinely competent at that thing and not just fooling ourselves and are actually back to the beginning and we're actually unconsciously incompetent once more. We've just fooled ourselves. Okay, so we need some way of appraising, and in a sales environment, that's often via a coach, a sales trainer, a manager, a sales director, somebody that can provide a third party, an experienced third party view of what you're doing, and can actually help you appraise your own skills and see where you are. Now, one word is, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So this would be, as an example, the golfer who has got a beautiful, perfect swing. So the Rory McIlroy swing in golf, absolutely beautiful golf swing. What you don't really want in that situation, if you're striking that ball really well, is you don't really want a coach coming along or a manager or somebody coming along and tinkering with that swing. Because if you tinker with that swing and you change something slightly, you might break it again. And then you're going to have to go all the way back to the start. So if it isn't broken, you certainly don't tinker with things and you don't fix them. You only fix them if you appraise them and you find that something's not working.